do here. One, as a business, we're looking at an opportunity to increase our parts penetration, the spare parts penetration and service penetration to a lot more of our customers in Mashinani, in the local regions. We actually coined the program, Isuzu Mashinani program, because the idea is to decentralize our services to a greater extent as much as possible. And when we come up with such ideas, we ask ourselves, how would such an initiative give us the maximum impact, and what are some of the already existing infrastructure that we can use to deploy such an initiative? And there was no better partner for us to deploy this initiative other than MSEA, who are already have a lot of information. To be frank, when we started to deal together, I realized what rich information MSEA has around youth and how we could really plug into the system to take our services closer to our customers. So it's a complete win-win situation in this particular instance.
All right, so how many people or how many micro and small enterprises do you hope to reach with this initiative that you started?
So we started a pilot. Our idea is to get at least to all the 47 counties and to areas of economic significance. As the country continues to grow, when you even look at Nairobi in itself, very many mega locations are coming, very many economic zones are coming up in the city of Nairobi. And how do we enable our customers who are dominating those regions to access service? So I'm looking at not less than about 200 youths could be impacted by this program, and as it becomes more successful and more people are getting interested in this particular program, then we'll roll it out also to his youths that are in service garages. There are many service points in this country. How do we then start the process of integrating them as our source of after-sales support and developing their capacity to be to a level of a full-fledged after-sales service dealer network? So the opportunity is big.
Okay, so the unemployment rates in Kenya today, especially among the youths, seem to be so high, in fact, currently being placed at over 40%. In the small and micro enterprise authority, I guess you also fall in the category where you have to look out for those of them who are starting that business that earns them 1,000 shillings at the end of the month, or 500 or 5,000 and above. But for them, their major issue right now is the fact that their businesses are inconsistent. Today it's operational and the next day it's not operational, and so you cannot actually quantify whether or not this job of theirs is sustainable. So what are you doing as the Micro and Small Enterprise Authority to ensure that you create some sort of sustainability for their businesses?
Thank you for that. Just like my sister here has expressed, the partnership we've gotten with GM, this was a good opportunity on that line of sustainability. All Kenyans obviously know that there is a lot that the Jua Kali sector, in quotes, do. There are many, many clusters. We all, most, if not all, the imported second-hand cars, very few of them go to their local dealers here in Kenya. Now GM is a manufacturer of a brand new cars. And you do appreciate that in Kenya a few years ago, the term for a matatu was a Nissan. You could say, I'm going with a Nissan. And every other truck or lorry was an Isuzu, irrespective of which brand it was. And what happened at that time is that, of course, after the GM has done with their mandatory service days, it would start being serviced elsewhere. And over time, innovations and counterfeit and everything else has been flooding the market, actually competing with that genuine parts in a way that even their dealers were actually not able to reach everyone else. Of course, we do appreciate that some of those parts were actually being or are being manufactured by ourselves. So this initiative now coming on board now makes us be able to service a vehicle with a genuine part. As such, the vehicle will actually be able to be of use for longer. And again, you, the owner of the vehicle, and that's why the jobs actually become intermittent, is because you take your car to a garage and the part that is fitted does not serve you. Next time you don't go there, the people who served you end up losing that opportunity. But now there is this consistency and continuity, and at the same time, the innovativeness of utilizing a container is something that we really, really admired.
All right, so how much more income do you hope this is going to generate for these specific groups that you're targeting? Because I'm thinking you're targeting those small circle groups in the car business, and you're also targeting individuals and maybe some community groups who are classified as such. But how much more income do you hope to generate for them?
We expect not just the additional income coming in because good vehicles are going to be on the road, but the number of people going to be engaged are going to be increased tremendously. One, let us appreciate that we can't for sure tell you when the government availed workplaces for the Juakalis.
Right.
The sheds that exist today, many of them were constructed 10, 15 years ago. But now with the container and the rolling out of more of them, it means these young men, and especially even those who go for soft loans, even from Youth Fund or elsewhere, they would now be able to get a place to work in. For now, the linkage that we are working on and the container is actually provided by GM at a concession price, very, very cheap actually. But we expect that now as we continue rolling out to other clusters, that intake of the youths will actually increase. The value will not only just in terms of how much I earn, but again in terms of the technology transfer.
Right.
The vehicle technology is changing, and now with the GM on board itself, and incidentally she did mention that they are receiving training before they actually get the container.
Before they get them.
So
all right.
that is quite
Rita,
interesting.
when you talk about, Patrick talks about a concession price, do you want to highlight on that so they can know that in case they are interested in being part of this initiative, then they know where to go and how much to have before they can even think about investing in it?
So when you look at the Juakali sector, first and foremost, accessing space to even do a business for a youth is very, very challenging and could be very, very expensive, especially in major towns. So we considered that, and to attract the youth to enter this particular industry. Our industry is not a cheap industry, it's a very expensive industry, and it can in itself create barriers to entry, especially for young people. So what we did is we bought containers, 20-foot containers, and we fabricated the containers to look like a parts warehouse or a parts shop anywhere you could go in the city. So the container is divided into small fast-moving parts and not so fast-moving parts. So we lease that container at no cost to the youth to reduce the burden of the capital that is required to start such a business. And we identify locations within SEA. Already the network exists.
Yes.
So we establish key points and we deploy that container to the youth. The only amount of money that the youth has to put up front is about 200,000 shillings. That's the initial capital that is required to come and buy your first inventory of parts. And this initiative has generated so much interest, and you can see the opportunities that already exist, because many banks have come to us. They're saying, okay, we are willing to partner with you so that we can be able to fund the stock cost for the youth. So you can see it's already beginning to take shape. But our long-term view is actually taking services to the people, reducing the amount of fake parts and counterfeit parts that are being used in this country. You will be surprised that in this country, the penetration of new parts is only about 23%.
And so we're looking at over 70% in
exactly, in terms of opportunity. Now, when you talk about what is it, what's there for the youth.
Right.
The opportunity is quite substantial, looking at where we are coming from. So we are very, very excited, and the youths will get a lot of skill in terms of know-how by partnering with a company like ours. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining us, talking about youth empowerment, or rather empowerment in general for the communities. But I guess this is going to create thousands of jobs for so many out there who are getting into the car business, and of course the other services that are provided outside of that. You're watching Business Today. We've come to the close of the hour. We've been speaking to Patrick Mwangi, who is the Chief Executive Officer for the Micro and Small Enterprises Authority, and also Rita Kabashi, who is the General Manager at General Motors East Africa. Thank you both for joining us on this edition of Business Today. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Thank you all for watching.